Today we are diving into a topic that might sound a bit daunting at first: command of evidence quantitative questions. These questions combine reading and interpreting data from graphs, tables, or charts. Sounds tricky, right? Well, here's the good news. While these questions may look tough, they can actually be some of the easiest to conquer once you know the right approach. The key is not to get overwhelmed by all the numbers and complex terms you see. Instead, we are going to break it down step by step, simplify everything, and show you how to zero in on the right answer with confidence. Just like command of evidence textual questions, these questions revolve around a claim or conclusion in the text. But here's the twist: you also need to use the data to back up that claim. It is all about being clear on what you're looking for and then using the evidence at hand to support it. We will begin by breaking down the steps needed to tackle this question type, and then we'll apply those steps to a series of questions, starting with an easy one, progressing to a medium difficulty question, and finally tackling a hard difficulty question. And here's a little bonus for you. Stick around till the end of the video because I'm going to share an exclusive tip that will save you tons of time on these questions, and it is something most test takers completely overlook. This could be your secret weapon for gaining those extra points on test day. Now, what is this type basically? When you look at command of evidence quantitative type, I know you have a basic understanding of what you can expect here. Let's try to understand a little bit more about this type. We basically combine the text that is reading and interpreting data from graphs, tables, or charts in this question type. We have to make a certain combination of both the things together to really get the answer to the question for this type. And the biggest challenge that people face or students face is time management. You only have 1 minute 10 seconds for this type. In this 1 minute 10 seconds, you basically have to read the text, you have to understand the graph, and you also have to eliminate your options. So there's a lot to do, correct? But again, like I said earlier, if you know the best way to approach it, you will definitely be able to cut down on that extra time that you can waste here and there while attempting this question type. So let's go ahead and see the steps that are involved in this question type. Now, this is again a 5-step strategy approach, just how we saw it in command of evidence textual type. The first step remains the same, that is, you read the question stem. You always read the question stem first in any question type for reading and writing section on digital ST. This will tell you what you're dealing with, and then you can accordingly place all your strategies and steps in place. The second step is you will go ahead and read the text. Right? Once you've understood the question stem, you've understood what you need to do, then you will directly go to the text and read it, right? By reading, I mean you will read and understand it, right? So it's more about comprehending what you read rather than simply reading it. The third step is you will identify what you require to answer the question. What should the correct option state? Tentatively. I don't mean to say that you have to know exactly what the correct option should say, but you should have a tentative understanding of what is it that can really help you get the correct answer. What is it that you really require in the correct option? Once you understand that, you will move on to the next step, that is understand the infographic. Till the third step, everything was same as you saw it in command of evidence textual type. The change comes here in the fourth step. Here you have to go to the graph. We are still not going to the options. We will go to the infographic. We will understand it. By understanding, I mean we'll get familiarized with what's given over there, right? And lastly, you will go to the option elimination step, and the most important step in any question type that you attempt. Now, these are the 5 steps that you should know to take this question type. But just knowing the steps is not going to help you. You have to understand how to implement each and every step over here, which we are going to understand later in the video. So stick around and understand how I am implementing all these 5 steps in 3 difficult level questions, and all the difficulty levels are different for those 3 questions. So this is the first question that we'll be taking up on this particular type. The difficulty level is easy, and this is a question released by College Board. Now let's understand what was the first step. The first step was to read the question stem. So let's go ahead and read it. Which choice most effectively uses data from the table to complete the statement? So what do I understand from the question stem? There is a text. In the text, there is an incomplete statement which I need to complete with the help of the table, right? And what is it that I require to complete the sentence? I will understand that only once I've read the text and understood it. So let us go ahead and read the text now. That's the second step. To make sure they got the nutrition they needed while in space, the astronauts of NASA's Gemini missions were given menus for 3 meals a day. So basically, the astronauts were given 3 meals a day. And what were those 3 meals? Meals A, B, and C. They've just labeled it as A, B, and C. On a 4-day rotating schedule. So these meals were given to them on a particular rotating schedule. Looking at the sample of food items from these menus, a student notes that on day 1, the menu included. So, a student was looking at the sample of food items of these menus and he noted something about day 1. What was given to them on day 1? This is what I require to complete the blank, right? So, I read the text, I understood it, and I also tried to understand what is it that I require in the blank space to complete the statement. What I understood was to complete the statement, I require an information that tells me what was given to these astronauts on day 1, right? Now, with this understanding, we are going to look at the table. Now, this is an easy difficulty level question, so reading the text and reading the table is not going to be a challenge over here. But what I want you to pay attention on is how I'm reading the table or how I'm reading the text. Now, let's pay attention to that process. The first thing that we do while reading any kind of an infographic is we read the title of that infographic. So here it tells me that we have sample of food items from Gemini mission menu. So the table will tell us something about the sample of food items. Right? Now the second thing that I'll notice is what is it that is written on the columns? Right? What are the headings that are given? Food items, so here I've got all the food items. Day, so on which days these food items were given. Meal, which meal were these food items? Was it meal A, B, C? Right? This is what I will understand when I look at the table. Now, remember, we are looking for an information that tells us what was given to them on day 1. And now if you look at the days column, there's only one particular food item given that was given to them on day 1. That's sugar cookie cubes. So I already have my answer. They got sugar cookie cubes on day 1 as their meal B. Now with this understanding, let us go to the options and try to eliminate some. Shrimp cocktail for meal B. Now shrimp cocktail was not given to them on day 1, so this is definitely out. I will not pick up this information. I want any information to do with day 1. Now B says hot cocoa for meal C. So hot cocoa was given to them on day 3, not on day 1, so B is also out. C says sugar cookie cubes for meal B. Yes, that is what we understood while reading the table. So this is definitely the correct answer. And D says chicken and vegetables for meal A. Chicken and vegetables was given in day 2, not on day 1. So this is also out. And C is the correct option. Now this is how you will be able to identify what your correct option is while integrating the information given to you in the text and also looking at the table. Right? Another thing that I want you to quickly notice is, now here, let's say you did not read the text. Let's say you don't have any information on the text. You simply have this table and you have these options, right? Now look at the choice A over here. It says shrimp cocktail for meal B. Look at the table now. Shrimp cocktail was not meal B, right? That was meal C, not B. So it would have definitely been out anyways, right? This information is not matching with the information given to us on the table, right? So I could have eliminated A even if I had not read the text. Now let's look at B. Hot cocoa for meal C. Hot cocoa was given as meal A, not C. So this would have been out as well because again, it's not matching with the information in the table. Now D. Chicken and vegetables for meal A. Chicken and vegetables were given as meal B, not meal A. So this is also out. What I'm trying to say over here is that sometimes you will be able to eliminate your options only for the reason that they are not matching up with the information given to you in the infographic. For that kind of an elimination, you don't even need to read the text, right? So this is one trick that you can use, right? But again, like I said, when you're practicing, you have to follow this 5-step approach. You have to read the question stem, you have to go to the text, read it, understand it, identify what you're looking for, and then move on to the infographic. Because this was an easy difficulty level question, I could very easily eliminate all the three options, all the three incorrect options, and derive my correct answer. Had it been that the difficulty level was hard, it would have been a little problematic to eliminate all the three incorrect options. Right? But again, having said that, it's always good to have a trick or know a trick. Right? We'll try to use this similar approach in the next few questions with different difficulty levels, and we'll see how different it is for those questions. Now let us go ahead and see one medium difficulty level question. Alright, so we have a medium difficulty level question now. So again, the steps remain the same. We will go ahead and read the question stem and then read the text. So let's read the question stem. Which choice best describes data from the graph that support M and colleagues' conclusion? So basically, the text will have some kind of a conclusion derived by M and colleagues, and we have to support that conclusion. This conclusion needs to be supported with the help of the graph that's given to us. In order to support the conclusion, we definitely do need to know what that conclusion is all about. So let's go ahead and read the text. The JD was built on this river in Utah in 1992. So a dam was built in 1992 in this particular river. Earth scientist A and colleagues tracked changes to the environment on the banks of the river downstream of the dam. So these people, this person A or M in this case and colleagues, what were they doing? They were tracking changes to the environment because of the dam that was built, right? What were the changes that happened in the environment, and including how much grass and forest cover were present. So they are also tracking how much grass and forest cover were present before the dam was built and after the dam was built. They are tracking these kind of changes also. Lastly, they concluded that now this is what we need to support, right? So let's give more attention to this. They concluded that the dam changed the flow of the river in ways that benefited grass plants but didn't benefit trees. So what happened because of the dam? The dam changed the flow of the river, right? And because of this change, what happened ultimately? It benefited the grass plants. This change was good for grass plants, but this was not so great for trees. Right? So because of the dam, something good, something positive happened to grass plants and something negative for the trees. This is what we need to support. Now with this understanding, we have to understand what is it that I need in my correct option. Right? Tentatively, the correct option should say the same thing. It should say that the dam helped the grass plants in some way and didn't help the trees in the similar way. Now, with this understanding, let's go ahead and understand the graph. Now, the first thing that we always do is we read the title. Characteristics of the banks of this particular river downstream of the JD. So, this dam. Right? And what is it that's included in this particular graph? They are going to talk about grass cover, bare soil, and forest cover. Now remember, bare soil was not even discussed in the text. This is not a part of the conclusion. So I'm not going to pay attention to any information that is regarding bare soil. All I'm going to care about is grass cover and forest cover. So this dark gray and black is what I'm concerned about. And what do I have on this particular graph? We have years. Right, 1987 is basically before the dam, right? So this is before, and 993 and 2006 is basically after the dam. The dam was built on 992, right? So this will tell us how the dam really changed something in grass cover and forest cover. And what do we have over here? We have area square meters. Right? So if you closely notice all the dark grays over here, which is basically nothing but the area covered by grass, that has increased. There's an increase over here. And when you look at these black ones, what is this? These black ones are basically the area covered by forest. It has decreased. Right? This is what the conclusion also stated. The conclusion stated that the dam that was built benefited the grass cover but did not benefit the forest cover. Right? Now with this understanding, let us go to our options and try to eliminate some of them. Now, there are several ways how you can eliminate options for this question type, and we will be looking at all those ways in this particular question. A. The lowest amount of grass cover was approximately this much, and the highest amount of forest cover was approximately this much. Okay, now what is this option really doing? It's simply telling me what was the lowest amount of grass cover and what was the highest amount of forest cover. But do I need such factual information, such plain basic factual information? The conclusion is about the comparison, right? The comparison between how it was before the dam was built and how it was after the dam was built. There is no such comparison being stated over here, right? It's simply just giving me facts without really telling me the results of building the dam, right? So I'm going to eliminate this option for that reason. Now, there's one more way how we could eliminate this particular option. Now, A says the lowest amount of grass cover was approximately 58,000. When was this? Now, if you look at the grass cover, 58,000 was for 1987, right? And this is the lowest one, right? So we are talking about 1987 information here. Now let's look at the next part of this option. The highest amount of forest cover was approximately 75,000. Now when was this? The 75,000 was also in the same year, that is 1987. So this entire option is only talking about 97. It's 1987. It's not even talking about what happened after the dam was built. Right? So this information or this option can be eliminated for that reason as well. Now let's look at B. There was more grass cover than forest cover in 1987. So what's happening here? It's simply telling me that the grass cover was more than forest cover in 87. Is that the case though? Is that what's really happening in the graph? The grass cover is definitely lesser than the forest cover. So this information over here till here is definitely wrong. It's not matching up with the information given to us in the graph. And this difference increased dramatically in 1993 and again in 2006. Now again, if you understood that the part till comma was incorrect, I don't think you will go ahead and read the rest of the option. That's another thing that I want to say. When you have such lengthy options given, right, always break them down. Don't try to eliminate the option by reading the whole thing together. Break it down into pieces. So here I could break this option till here. I did find something wrong over here, so why will I read this part? And this part is any which way is wrong. It's not related to the conclusion. And this difference is increasing for sure by 993 and 2006. But in what way the difference is coming? Is the grass cover still more for forest cover than forest cover, or is it less? It's all incorrect. Any which ways, B is not going to make sense for several reasons. But the biggest takeaway from this particular option elimination is going to be that don't read the options, such lengthy options, all of it together. Try to break them down and see if you can eliminate something from the very start. Let's look at C now. There was less grass cover than bare soil in 1987. Let's pause here. Now let's try to break it down and see if I can eliminate anything from here. So there was less grass cover than bare soil in 1987. Do I care about bare soil? Like I said earlier, the conclusion was about grass cover and forest cover. It's not about the bare soil. So I don't even care about any information related to bare soil, and I could eliminate this for that reason, right? Now what happens over here? In choice C, what is happening is that it's not related, or let me say it's irrelevant to the conclusion that I need to support. So I could eliminate C for that reason, as simple as that. Let's go to D now. Now this has to be the correct option, right? You could eliminate A, B, C, so this has to be a correct option. And let's just see how this is placed. Grass cover increased from 1987 to 1993. That is exactly what we identified. It increased. Whereas forest cover decreased in those periods. And forest cover, we do see a decrease. And this is comparing what? This is comparing between 1987 to 1993 and 1993 to 2006. So clearly before and after, right? We have that clear comparison. It's related to the conclusion. The information given over here in this particular option is matching the information given to us in this infographic, right? And for all these reasons, we could say that D is our correct option. Now, I hope this made sense, and I hope you understood how easy it was to eliminate the options over here. If you look at this question and get all panicked looking at how lengthy the options are, you will definitely miss out on how easy it is to eliminate these options. Break them down into smaller pieces, match the information with the graph, match the information with the claim that we are supposed to support, and then decide if you want to eliminate it or if you want to keep it. With this, we are done with the medium difficulty level question. We will be moving on to a higher difficulty level question, that is a hard difficulty level question. So now we are going to take up a hard difficulty level question. And like we already know, the first step is to read the question stem and then we'll read the text. So what does the question stem really say? Which choice best describes data from the graph that weaken the team's hypotheses? So remember, this is weaken. A lot of students miss out on this particular word, and you can definitely go wrong with your option selection as well. Right? So do not miss out on such an important detail. Here we are supposed to weaken the team's hypotheses. Now, to understand what the team hypothesis is, we have to read the text. Let's go ahead and read the text. In the US, firms often seek incentives from municipal governments to expand to those municipalities. Now, what happens in the US? It says that these firms, they seek incentives from these governments, municipal governments, to expand their businesses to those municipalities. So if the government want the firms to open up their business in their municipalities, the firms, they seek incentives for the same, right? Let's read ahead. A team of political scientists hypothesized that municipalities are much more likely to respond to firms and offer incentives if expansions can be announced in the time to benefit local elected officials than if they can't. Now, this is what the hypothesis is, right? And this is what we need to weaken. So, what is that the municipalities are more interested in these firms coming into their municipalities when the firms decide to make these announcements in certain time when the local elected officials can be benefited. Right? Only in those timings, these municipalities are more likely to respond or give them an incentive. So basically, in a very simple manner, I can say that the announcement timing matters or is connected to the municipalities offering any incentive to the firms or even responding to the firms, right? Now, with this understanding, let's read ahead. The team contacted officials in thousands of municipalities inquiring about incentives for a firm looking to expand and indicating that the firm would announce its expansion on a date either just before or just after the next election. So, all in all, I can say they wanted to see if these governments were more likely to offer incentives to companies planning to expand in that area, depending on when the company planned to announce their expansion. So, the researchers thought that if the expansion was announced just before or after an election, local officials would be more likely to respond or offer incentives because it could help them look good to voters, right? And this is exactly what we need to weaken. So we need to find an option that shows the data not supporting the researcher's idea or hypothesis. In other words, we need to choose the answer that suggests local governments didn't really care about the timing of the announcement when deciding whether to respond or offer incentives. Timing has nothing to do with this, right? Now, with this understanding, we are going to look at our infographic. Okay, we'll read the name or the title first. Municipalities' responses to inquiries about potential incentives for firms. So this is about the responses and about potential incentives. Now, which kind of information do we have? The light gray is basically announcement before election, and this black one is after election. Now, if you notice, everything like for no response, for responded to inquiry, offered incentive, it's almost the same, right? For both the kind of timings, before or after, right? It's almost the same, which means there was not much relationship, or there is no relationship between the announcement of the firm and the municipalities responding to the firms, right? This basically proves the point, or helps us weaken the hypotheses of the team, right? There's no difference. So basically, it has nothing to do. The timing has nothing to do with municipalities responding to the firms or municipalities giving an incentive to the firms, right? Now, with this understanding, let us go ahead and read our options. Option A. So, option A says a large majority of the municipalities that received an inquiry mentioning plans for an announcement before the next election didn't respond to the inquiry. Okay. Now, what is this option really saying? This option talks about a lack of response from the municipalities when the announcement was planned before the election, right? Which is helpful. This looks like the timing didn't matter, but it focuses only on a lack of response and doesn't compare it to the situation where the announcement was after the election. So, what if there was a response after the election? What will that prove? It will prove that timing has something to do with if municipalities would respond to the firms or not, right? It will still make a point for the relationship between the timing of the announcement and municipalities responding or offering incentives to the firms, right? So this makes it less effective in directly challenging the idea that the timing influenced responses or incentives. So for that reason, I'm going to eliminate this. Now let us look at choice B. The proportion of municipalities that responded to the inquiry or offered incentives didn't substantially differ across the announcement timing conditions. Now, this option clearly states that the timing has nothing to do, right? It has nothing, the timing of the announcement didn't really affect how likely the municipalities were to respond or offer incentives. This particular option directly weakens the researchers' hypotheses because it suggests that the timing didn't make a difference, contrary to what the researchers expected. So I like this option, right? But again, it doesn't mean that I will not go ahead and eliminate the rest of the options. Let's look at C now. Only around half the municipalities that responded to the inquiries mentioning plans for an announcement before the next election offered incentives. Now it's telling me who offered incentives, right? This option suggests that even when municipalities responded, not all of them offered incentives when the announcement was before the election. However, this doesn't directly address whether the timing before or after the election influenced the likelihood of offering incentives. It also doesn't compare responses to those municipalities planning announcements after the election, which would be necessary to weaken the hypotheses effectively. So this is also out for that reason, right? Let's look at D now, which is our last option. Of the municipalities that received an inquiry mentioning plans for an announcement date after the next election, more than 1200 didn't respond and only around 100 offered incentives. Now, what is this particular option talking about? It talks about the municipalities that received an inquiry for announcements after the election, highlighting that very few responded or offered incentives. It points out that the response rate was low for after election announcement, right? It doesn't directly compare it to the response rate for before election announcements. This means it doesn't provide enough information to clearly show that the timing of the announcement, that is before or after the election, didn't matter, which is needed to weaken the hypotheses. We were very clear about what we require to weaken the hypotheses. We have to say that the timing doesn't matter, right? That is only how we can weaken the hypotheses. So if you look logically, A, C, and D were not proving the point or weakening whatever the claim was or whatever the hypothesis was, right? Option B was the best choice because it directly challenges the hypothesis by stating that the timing of the announcement before or after didn't significantly influence a municipality's election, which is exactly what would weaken the researchers' claim, right? The other options, They either don't compare the before or after scenarios directly or don't clearly show that the timing didn't matter. Because this is a hard difficulty level question, here it's very important that we understand what the claim, hypothesis, or conclusion is that we are trying to support or weaken. Right? Once you have a better understanding of it, you will be finding the option elimination easier. If you don't understand the claim, hypothesis, or conclusion, whatever it is that is in question, properly, you will not be able to eliminate the options. Right? And there you have it. You are now equipped with all the tools you need to tackle command of evidence quantitative questions with confidence. Remember, it is all about breaking down the data, understanding the claim, and then matching the two. Keep practicing these steps, and soon you will find these questions are actually some of the easiest to ace. As promised, here's that exclusive tip I mentioned earlier. When you're running out of time, don't forget that the quickest way to narrow down your choices is by eliminating options that don't align with the data, even if the wording sounds convincing. Trust the numbers, not just the language. This can save you precious minutes, especially under pressure. Got any questions or topics you want us to cover next? Drop a comment below. We read every single one. To make sure all this information sticks, don't forget to download the notes on this question type. I've put the link right in the description box below. But wait, there's more. If you're serious about acing the SATs, I have also included a link to a free SAT mock test. It is a great way to assess where you stand and what areas you need to work on. And if you want to stay on top of your game every single day, join my community. By joining, you will get free access to a daily digital SAT English quiz where I post new questions daily, introduce new vocabulary words that often show up on the SATs, and share tips to help you crush the English section. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on this. So download the notes, take the mock test, and be sure to join the community. Let's conquer the SATs together.